If you're looking to buy a house in California, well, I have good news, but I also have bad news as well. The good news is that there's nearly 40% more houses for sale compared to 1 year ago. So depending on where you live, you may see a lot more options to choose from. The other bit of good news is that mortgage rates and home prices have started to decrease. The bad news is that even though home prices have started to decrease, we're not too far off the all-time record high that was set back in May this year. In today's video, I have an update for you guys regarding the California housing market update. This is part one of my two-part video series I make each and every month for you guys. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what's happening right now at the statewide level regarding home prices, housing inventory, the share of price reductions, and much, much more. And by the way, if you guys want a real estate agent in California or anywhere across the United States, check out my website, which is realestateteamfinder.com. And I'll link you up with a great real estate agent in your neck of the woods. With that said, I have a lot to share in today's video. I'm actually really excited to share this with you guys. So let's begin. Here's a slideshow from the California Association of Realtors that was just posted a couple of days ago regarding what's happening right now at the statewide level for existing single-family houses. So this video excludes multifamily properties such as apartment buildings, condos, etc. But also we're only talking about existing houses, in other words, excluding brand new home construction. This covers the month of July, by the way. So let's look at this snapshot first. So home sales increased by 4.1% compared to July of 2023. This figure right here, just under 280,000. That is seasonally adjusted. It's also annualized as well. So basically on the current sales pace as of July, multiply that by 12, do a seasonal adjustment, you would get to 280,000 over the next 12 months. That's sales up by 4.1% year over year. The median sale price is at $886,560. That's an increase of 6.5% year over year. I have a lot more to share regarding that based on my own analysis of their data, by the way. But we're still up by 6.5% year over year. The unsold inventory index, in other words, the month supply, 2.9 months, still very low, historically speaking, but an increase of 16% compared to July of 2023. Days in the market's at 20 days, a big increase of 25%. So 20 days means that you list your home for sale. On average, you accept an offer from home buyer in about 20 days. Okay, before we talk about home prices, let's take a look at sales, because sales jumped to the highest level since February this year. Pretty crazy here that sales increased by 3.6% in one single month, and we're still up by 4.1% year over year. Kind of provide some context regarding this is that, it's great to see that sales, the biggest increase since February, but ever since really the last half of 2022, we've had this lack of home sales in California, but also in the nation as a whole. So for example, we're at around 290,000 or 280,000 right now. Looking at 2016 through 2019, we're basically over 400,000. So lack of home sales in California, but also across the United States as well. In my opinion, the lack of home sales is really due to the fact we've had this affordability crisis in California. And this is kind of true for the nation as a whole because rates have increased so much and also home prices have increased so much over the past 5 years. And of course, a lot of people have rates very low on their houses, less than 3%, less than 4%. And those people are not really forced to sell their house unless they have a financial hardship. And because of that, we're not seeing a giant surge of new listings or people listing their house for sale. So we're seeing supply decreasing, relatively speaking, and also sales also decreasing as well. And when I say decreasing, I mean much lower levels compared to pre-COVID levels. Now here's something that's been happening as well. So this is the percent of sales by price range. So for sales in the range of $1 million to $2 million, that increased by 24% this July compared to July of 2023. We also saw a big gain of sales over $2 million, surging by 26%. In contrast, sales in the range of $400,000 to $499,000, small gain of 1%. And for these other price buckets, decreasing year over year. So we're seeing sales at the upper range of the market increasing by more than 20%, whereas sales basically in negative territory for less than 400,000. I mention this because we're seeing more sales in the luxury, I shouldn't say luxury, because $1 million home in the San Francisco Bay Area is basically a fixer, but we're seeing more sales of more expensive properties compared to 1 year ago, which is impacting overall the median sale price here in California. Another way to look at this is right here. Sales over $1 million this July represented 35% of all home sales in California. Last year, it was only 32%. In contrast, sales for less than 500,000, including zero. So let me know if you guys got a house for free. But home sales for less than 500,000, that was 22% of all home sales this July, and that was at 25% 1 year ago. So sales of $1 million was about 35%, but less than 500,000 at 22%. Also, take a look at this. Here is the sales growth by price segment. So here's the key right here. And this is what I want to focus on right here. So the green bars are sales in the range of $1 million to just under $2 million. Sales for over $2 million are the dark blue bars. So as you can see, back in the early parts of 2024, giant increase in sales over $1 million. That was an increase of 30% in the range of 1 million and 2 million, but a giant increase over 50% for sales over 50%. Look what happened in June though. In June, we saw actually a decrease in sales in the range of 1 million to $2 million, which is right here, but a small gain of only 10% for over $2 million. That got reversed though, because again, we're up by, by 24% in the 1 million to $2 million range, and up by 26% for over $2 million. So we're seeing more sales at the upper range of the market this July, which is much different compared to June, but not nearly as crazy compared to the start this year and also compared to April this year. So overall, what this means to me is that back in more or less February and April, we saw a giant increase in sales for over $1 million, which likely impacted overall the median sale price. And right now we're less than that, but still way below or way higher compared to June's numbers, which has a lesser impact overall regarding the statewide trends we're seeing right now. This phenomenon regarding big increases in sales over $1 million is actually pretty crazy when looking at 2019. So for example, back in July 2019, let's just say the early parts of 2019, the summer months, back then, around 45% of all home sales were for less than 500,000. In contrast, sales for over $1 million back then was around 15 to about 20%. Now look at this. We're seeing more sales right now at 35% for over $1 million than sales for less than 500,000 at 22.4%. So in my opinion, not only we're seeing sales decrease for less than 500,000, but of course a lack of inventory or houses for sale for less than that amount as well. In contrast, a big increase in sales over $1 million, and of course, inventory up in that segment as well. All right, changing gears slightly here to talk about pending home sales, a measure of contracts being signed between buyers and sellers of existing single-family houses. So pending home sales actually increased by 2.1% year over year. We've been seeing small gains or small decreases basically all year now. So we're not seeing giant increases in sales, but we're also not seeing giant decreases in sales as well. In contrast, look at the early parts of 2021, pending home sales surged by 80% compared to 1 year ago, which of course caused sales or closed home sales to surge 1 or 2 months after that. And again, right now, we're still at relatively low levels, basically flat from 1 year ago, which implies that closed home sales will likely remain very low in the coming months as well. Okay, let's talk about prices. I have a lot to share regarding that. By the way, if you guys are getting any value out of today's video, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. So let's talk about this. So overall in California, we're just under 887,000, a decrease of 1.6% compared to June, but still up by 6.5% year over year. And just like Carr mentions, this is the first time in 4 months that overall home prices have decreased below the $900,000 mark. All right, let's get a little bit nerdy here and talk about my own analysis of their data regarding home prices here in California. This is a Excel file pulled from the California Association of Realtors website probably 2 years ago. And every month I just add on to this, right? So we're talking about July, right? So home prices, and when I say home prices, I'm talking about the median sale price, which means that half of the houses sold below that number and half sold above that number, right? That's the median number. So home prices for closed home sales in July is mostly based on contracts being signed between buyers and sellers, buyers getting offers accepted back in June. Back in June, according to Freddie Mac, the average rate for the entire month was at 6.92%. That was a 3-month low, which could have caused sales to increase in July because rates decreased to a 3-month low. Also, rates have been coming down ever since then, which will be interesting to see if that causes sales to increase further in the coming months. Here's what I mean by this. Back in June, the average rate was at 6.92% for average 30-year fix, according to Freddie Mac. At 6.92%, that was the lowest rate since March this year. But ever since then, rates have been coming down. In July, it decreased to 6.85%. And so far this August, and by the way, I'm filming this video August 26th, the monthly rate for a 30-year fix decreased to 6.54%. So of course, I would love to hear from you guys regarding this. Do you guys feel that rates decreasing from about 6.92% to 6.5% will get buyers off the fence to buy houses because your purchasing power just increased, but also your monthly housing payment, of course, decreases when rates decrease as well? So please leave me a comment below with your thoughts regarding that. Do you guys think that the decrease in rates is going to impact the housing market here in California? All right, getting back to my fun Excel spreadsheet here. Overall, we're at 886,560. That's down by 21,480 compared to the all-time record high of 908,000 that was set back in May this year. So what we're basically seeing right now is somewhat of a seasonal decrease in the median sale price because during this time of year, home prices tend to start decreasing or they're basically flat at best. And I have more to share regarding that here in a little bit. Also on a year-over-year basis, we're up by 6.5%. This is much higher compared to last year's increase. Last year's time, back in July 2023 compared to 2022, we barely squeaked out a gain, up by 0.2%. This year, we're up by 6.5% year over year. This also marks the 13th consecutive month of year-over-year gains after 8 consecutive months of decreases. However, the 6.5% increase this year is actually lower than the long-term historical average. The long-run average is a gain of 8.3% going back to the year of 2010. My biggest takeaway regarding this is that sale prices have been increasing at a faster clip compared to 1 year ago, but still looking at historical averages, we're actually running a little bit behind that. So we're up compared to a year ago, but last year we're at this kind of weird timeline because back in July of 2023 compared to 2022, a small increase of 0.2%. Before that, from November through June, we saw decreases year over year. Looking at the month-to-month decrease down by 1.6% compared to June, this is actually a bit more of a seasonal decrease. In other words, we're seeing more than a seasonal decrease right now because the long-run average during July, this is June through July, every year going back to the year of 2010, is a small gain of 0.4%. So it's actually normal to see home prices relatively flat compared to June, whereas this year we're down by 1.6%. In my personal opinion regarding this is that one of the reasons why I feel that home prices are down a little bit more compared to the long run average is due to inventory increasing by more than 40% from 12 months ago, which of course means that home sellers have to compete against each other more so often than not compared to 1 year ago. And because of that, we're not seeing this runaway price growth like we saw in 2020 and 21. Also, for comparison's sake, home prices decreased by 0.4% from June through July in 2019. This year, we're down by 1.6%, so worse than pre-COVID levels in 2019. However, though, home prices basically cratered by 5% month to month back in July of 2008. So of course, things could be a lot worse, right? But wait, there's more. I want to share how the changes in prices compared to 1 year ago compared to years past, especially compared to pre-pandemic era. So back in July 2018 through July of 2019, home prices increased by 2.8%. This year, again, it increased by 6.5%. In contrast, 2017 through 18, it increased by 7.6%, quite a bit higher compared to the 6.5% gain we're seeing this year. Also, 16 through 17, it increased by 7.4%. Also, quite a bit higher compared to the gains we're seeing this year. In stark contrast, though, July 08 through July 2009, a giant decrease of 19.6%. Quite a bit different compared to the 6.5% increase this year. Also, home prices have surged by 33% over the past 4 years. It's actually worse compared to 5 years ago, though, up by 46% from July 2019. All right, hope you guys appreciate that original analysis from nerdy Jason Walter here. So hope you guys got a lot of value out of that segment there. That kind of part takes me quite a bit of time to do, but hope you guys appreciate that. Or not appreciate it. Hope you guys get value out of it. If you guys don't get value out of it, then there's no point in doing it, right? Anyways, let's talk about the sale price to final list price ratio. That's been paid at around 100% for about a year now. That was at 100% last month, but also unchanged compared to 1 year ago. So on average, houses selling for the seller's final list price. However, though, the share of houses selling above the seller's asking price fell to a 5-month low. So 43.6% of all home sales for single-family houses that occurred this July sold above the seller's final list price. 1 year ago at this time, we're at 50%. Also at 44% right now. This is much lower compared to the peak that was set back in April of 2022. Back then, a whopping 73% of all home sales sold above asking back then. Absolutely crazy compared to the 44% we're seeing right now. Let's also talk about the relationship between rates and housing payments as well. So according to CAR, or the California Associated Realtors, mortgage rates remain elevated, and so is the cost of borrowing. So this is pretty unusual, not unusual. This is a kind of a new trend compared to especially what we saw back in 2022, which is right here. This is the average 30-year fixed rate. I believe this is monthly rates according to Freddie Mac. So back in, let's just say January of 2022, the average rate was around 3.4%. And by the time we hit, the fall months that year, it increased to about 7%. Giant increase in rates that year, which of course, froze the housing market. This year, much different compared to then. So the average rate this July, 6.85%. July 2023, 6.71%. In other words, not a big increase in rates compared to 1 year ago. So take a look at this. The mortgage payment growth, this is the increase in your payment, looking at home prices and rates, increased by 6.7%, and home prices increased by 6.5%. So big picture, the increase in your housing payment up by 6.7% is really due to the fact that prices have increased, not due to the fact that rates have increased as well. Because again, look at this. Your daily or monthly rate has only increased by about 10 basis points compared to 1 year ago. Rates relatively flat year over year, but home prices have increased by 6.5%. So we have this affordability issue in California, but also for the nation as a whole. And this increase in your housing payment is really due to the fact that home prices have been increasing because rates have been relatively flat year over year. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about inventory levels in California. So the month supply is at 2.9 months. 1 year ago, it was at 2.5 months. So relatively low levels, especially compared to the Great Recession. Look at this, 07, 08, the month supply was around 16 months, absolutely insane. Now it's only at 2.9 months. Here's also a look at inventory levels in California. We're seeing an increase every single month, which is normal. Inventory tends to peak in the summer months, but what's different this year compared to years past though, look at 2022. Inventory basically skyrocketed. It went from all-time record lows and it increased to very high clip once we hit back in May and June that year. Last year, inventory increased slightly and we actually saw a late peak of inventory that year. This year, inventory is increasing at a much faster clip compared to last year, but not nearly as fast as 2022. Here's another way to look at this. Inventory increasing by 39.3% year over year. And this marks the highest rate since January of 2023. So we've now had 6 consecutive months of year-over-year increases after 10 consecutive months of decreases. That's this right here. So inventory up compared to 1 year ago. And that's impacting home prices here in California. Here's what we're also seeing as well. So new listings increased by 19.5% year over year. This means that there's approximately 20% more new supply hitting the market. In other words, people listing their house for sale up by 19.5% year over year. This has been a common trend basically all year, much different compared to last year. New listings basically decrease every single month that year. So now we have this July, 21,259 new listings. At this time in July 2019, 29,258. So even though new listings are up by about 19.5% year over year, they're still down by about 27% compared to July of 2019. So in other words, we have a long ways to go in order to have a more normal market. In other words, we have more normal amount of new supply hitting the market. Let's also have a look at the share of price reductions because right now that's at 36.4%. So approximately 1/3 of all houses for sale in July have already reduced their asking price. That's a share at 36.4%. It has been increasing, at a small clip this year, much different compared to 2022. Let me just see if I can zoom in here. So back in January of 2022, the share price drops only around 20%. And by the time we hit, the fall months that year, it increased to 50%. Absolutely insane, more than doubling in less than 1 year. This year, much different. We're at more relatively normal levels right now, and a small increase so far this year. Much different compared to 2022, where the share price drops absolutely skyrocketing, which of course was due to the giant increase of inventory, which caused home prices to fall as well. Lastly, before I wrap this video up, I hope you guys are still watching today's video because every housing market's different, right? I can talk about regions, states, counties, cities, neighborhoods. It can be all different, right? But I want to share how inventory is so much different in California compared to other states. This is according to altosresearch.com, by the way, regarding inventory levels. So for the nation as a whole, we have approximately 705,000 homes for sale, higher than last year, higher than 2022, 21, and 2020, but much lower compared to 2019 at around 945,000. So inventory levels, or the amount of houses for sale, is basically at a 4-year high during the same time frame on a national level. Look at Arizona though. In Arizona, they're higher compared to last year, not too much higher compared to 2022, but actually approaching pre-pandemic era. So right now, around 20,000 homes for sale. At this time in 2019, there's around 24,000. In Florida, much different. Inventory levels is higher right now than any other week, going back to at least early September of 2019. So back then, 76,000 homes for sale. Right now, at least for the week ended August 23rd, 82,000. So a glut of inventory in Florida. In Texas is actually worse. Look at this. I mean, by far, by far, more homes for sale every single week going back to at least September of 2019. Back then, just under 96,000 homes for sale. Now there's a whopping 114,000. In California, much different. Right now, 45,000 homes for sale, less than 2022 and far less than 2019 at 64,000. I'm only mentioning this because every housing market's different. And on top of that, the markets that have more homes for sale right now compared to pre-COVID levels are areas in which home prices are going down or are areas in which home prices are barely squeaking out a gain. In contrast, areas in which we have a lack of homes for sale from 2019 are experiencing gains in home prices, just like here in California. And with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. If you guys are still watching today's video, then here's a virtual high five. I appreciate it so much. Like and subscribe. Also, if you guys want a real estate agent referral, please email me at jason@meetjasonwalter.com or check out my website, which is realestateteamfinder.com. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next video.